Welcome to MANCAVE, where we have manly conversations about men by men. I'm AUTHORITATIVE. Today we wanted to talk about mental health and particularly post-traumatic stress disorder. Our guest today is a man who's worked for the British Army. He's Kenyan. He joined the British Army, was deployed to Afghanistan. An accident happened, he lost his leg, and thereafter things just started going south for him. He got post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. David Etale is here to talk to us about PTSD, his own journey through PTSD, and how he is helping other people, and particularly men who are going through PTSD. David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, your story has been told, and many people have seen your story.
Right.
But then let's just start from that point of you have gone, you've been deployed, you're out there, you're serving your country, your employer, and then that happens.
Yeah.
You're taken back home, you're given good care,
Yes.
but still things went south in your head.
Yeah.
What was it that was happening?
First of all, I think what was happening in my head was all the traumatic events that I've seen, and then the trauma that happened to me when my accident happened via an improvised explosive device. So when I was on my own safe space, I was reliving the things that I've seen. So my mind wouldn't let go of anything that I had seen, which was traumatic in Afghanistan. And I think the toughest battle any human being can face is not what we can see physically, but what people are going through within themselves. And that's exactly what I've been going through, and I'm still going through that up to date. And I think it's the most challenging thing that you can ever try and cure, which is PTSD.
So at what point did you realize that what you have is actually PTSD?
Actually, for me, at the beginning, I was denying that I have PTSD. I came to accept that I have PTSD 3 years later. And that was because of through my actions and some of my friends who I served with, and they noticed my behavior changed completely, especially when I have a drink. And they noticed that I was acting differently than when I was sober. And now the problem with PTSD, especially among soldiers, and not only soldiers, I would put it everywhere around the world. The problem with PTSD is we are not tailored to speak. I will speak on my case where I was in the military for 11 years. We are trained not to talk. So for me, speaking out, I felt like it puts me in a position where I'm less of a man. Yeah.
It's weakness.
Yes, weakness.
To start
yeah.
to speak about what you're going through, that is a show of weakness.
Absolutely.
And as somebody who is not deserving to be in the military in the first place.
Absolutely.
So was it the doctors who looked at you and they said that, okay, you're going through PTSD and we need to put you into some treatment? Or was it those friends who were telling you, dude, when you drink you become somebody else?
I think it came to realization when I was acting differently and when I was not behaving the way I'm supposed to behave as a human being, where I'm making a lot of mistakes. And so one day I had an appointment with a doctor, and the doctor had received some reports about me on how I'm behaving. And so the doctor just referred me, told me, I want to send you to a hospital. It was a military hospital, to go and see a psychiatrist. And when I went to see the psychiatrist, I actually didn't speak for the first time. I went for almost over 6 sessions without saying a word every time I went there. And you know, psychiatrists are trained they're trained in a way that they will not force you to speak, but they will listen to your silence. That silence normally tells them that this person needs help. And I think that's why the psychiatrist was so patient with me, to a point where now I started talking. And he just told me, the first day you walked into this office, the silence that you gave me for almost over 40 minutes, that you just came in, said hello, I asked you what was going on. You never replied anything. And my last words were, can I go home? He said, I knew you have PTSD. Yeah. Because that is what most soldiers normally do.
That's what people go through.
Yeah.
Now, there are people who think, because we've seen the movies, because we've had stories of David Etale and others, that PTSD is, a phenomenon that occurs to people who've been through battle.
Yeah.
So it happens in the military or with the police officers or people who've served in armed conflict. But does PTSD also affect people who are not in the military?
Absolutely. PTSD can affect anyone. Anyone. PTSD, mental health, is one of the, I would say it's a disease that it doesn't select who you are. Billionaires, millionaires, middle class, poor, it will affect anyone. And if you watch news around the world and you see the biggest celebrities around the world who are quite caught in, let's say, they are drug addicts, that they end up doing that until they die, that is because of mental health issues. And mental health is, PTSD is something that anyone who has experienced any traumatic event in their life, they will most likely suffer from PTSD.
Examples of such traumatic events?
Traumatic events? Traumatic events actually can be, for example, in my case, I was in a war zone where you're going to see things that you never expected to see, because remember, you're in a war zone there. So
people are dying.
Yeah, people are dying. It's about you versus the enemy.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to see what's happening to your friends, people being blown up left, right, and center. You're going to see people being shot. And when all these things are happening, remember, you have to pick up your friend. You know? And picking up your friend from all those things that are happening, you feel, I became to a point where I didn't have any emotions. My body became numb. So that is a traumatic event. When it comes to civilians, maybe people who've been involved in road accidents.
Right.
You know, they've seen a terrible, terrible road accident. Some of them even who are in abusive marriages, abusive relationships, where it's become physical and it keeps on happening all the time. You know, another example is the pandemic we're just facing right now, COVID-19, where you find people are losing family members.
Yeah.
Not one, not two, not three. So you can develop PTSD from any event that's traumatic to you.
And how does it manifest normally? For the many cases, I mean, since your own experience, you have interacted with many other people. You have become an advocate for mental health. So you've encountered people who've gone through such challenges like you're telling us.
Yeah.
How does it manifest? So if I was sitting today, how would I be able to tell that there's something that's going on and so and so? And it could be because of what happened. It could be because of the accident they were involved in, or the loss of a very close person, or just life happening around them. Can you tell?
Yes, you could tell. I think the best example I could use is when you're around your loved ones or people that you're used to each and every single day. It will get to a point where if you start acting differently from the way you act normal, people will start raising their eyebrows towards you. And PTSD can be something that when you're sleeping at night and you're reliving those nightmares, the same nightmares that left you not to sleep the previous night, they're still attacking you the next day.
Yeah.
And when people are looking at you and you're behaving differently, that's when now you should tell, for example, you should say, wait a minute, David doesn't look right. Let's say if you're drinking 2 beers and you go home, but this time David has switched from 2 beers, he's drinking 2 bottles of whiskey. And after he drinks it, he starts acting in a weird way. That's when you sense there must be a problem here.
And what do you do in such case?
In such cases, for me, what I would advise people, because I live in the UK, and here in Kenya is quite different from how things work out there. For example, for me, when I was going through these things and my friends identified that problem, it was someone who went to the military doctor to say, David doesn't look right. So I was called in to go and see a doctor. But here, I've seen the system and everything is quite different. So even if you see someone behaving like that, I think the best thing for you to do is to try and find out, why is this person behaving like this? And you create an environment where this person feels safe, that this person can actually trust you by whatever he's going to tell you or she's going to tell you, whatever they're going through.
You see, the thing about all these things, as you're saying, it's true that's the approach maybe that one should take, but let's face the reality. In the case of men,
yes,
we don't talk.
Yeah.
So it's not easy for a man to come out and say what he's going through.
Yeah.
And then men as a community sitting together, we do not want to start picking up other people's problems.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole thing of, we don't discuss somebody in their absence. So
Yeah.
guys, come together, have you noticed there's something happening and so on, so, and you feel like, you are crossing the line by going there. So what you're saying is it's important for us to start thinking as groups of friends.
Yeah.
You notice something is happening with one of us.
Yeah.
We start talking about it. And we start seeking how to help this person.
Yeah.
That's not easy, David.
I know. And that's the most challenging thing that we should try and break. And that's why that's why I'm saying this. If we realize someone is going through a certain situation or a certain challenge in life, if I claim I'm your friend, or I'm your brother, or you're my sister, I should have love towards you. I shouldn't be able to sit down and realize that there's something going on with you, then I take that and go and discuss it somewhere else, then it turns out to be something negative.
Yeah.
And I think that is what so many people are struggling with, especially men, where they realize that I can't go and share about what I'm going through. I'm a man. I'm supposed to be the strongest person here. But one thing we are forgetting is whether you're a man, a woman, a child, we are all human beings. We are all wired differently, because at the end of the day, it's your life, So for me, that's why I'm able to speak out about my mental health. That's why I'm able to tell men it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry as a man. That doesn't make you less of a man. It doesn't make you weak. Because the minute you start doing that, that's the beginning of your journey and your process of healing. The more you keep things to yourself and the more you keep on burying them slowly and keeping them to the side, that's when you'll hit a rock bottom where now you're thinking of suicide.
Yeah.
And I feel right now, if we want to make the society to be a better place for people, we need to have that humanity inside us where we are thinking, you know what? If this person is going through this, let me not make fun out of it, but let me show this person love. Because sometimes just sitting down and you telling me about what you're going through, it makes you feel good about yourself.
In your case, aside from the doctors who are treating you, did you have a group of friends that, looking back, that came together that, in their own way, they were also offering you what you're talking about, that support system?
Yes.
Male?
Yes.
And how did they organize?
For me, it was the people I've served with. Not everyone who goes to a war zone gets PTSD.
Yep.
Because, as I said before, our bodies and our minds are all wired differently. But for me, I was quite lucky that my white friends who were around me, they were able to try and help me to put me in a better position where I know that I'm good. And for me, I found it difficult to try and open up to them and tell them what I'm going through, because also I was born in Kenya, remember that? My culture is here in Kenya.
You were schooled in Kenya?
Yeah. So everything about me is wired in Kenya. So it was difficult for me as well to sit down and tell them this is what I'm going through.
So what is this about the peculiar thing about Kenya, your Kenyanness that was making it difficult?
I think it's just how I was raised. Which I saw that every man doesn't talk. That's how I was raised. You're raised and trained not to talk. You're raised and trained not to show the other person that you're weak. That's what was in me. But for them, their culture is, that's not a sign of weakness to them. That is actually a sign of bravery. And that is what I learned and picked up from them, that was able to make me feel comfortable to be able to tell them this is what I'm going through. And out of those friends, one of them is the one who went and told the doctor, kindly please, David is going through this. Let's see how we can help him.
Yeah.
And that's, here in Kenya, I've seen that's a problem. Because that's what I said, to me, circumstances are very different.
Right.
So for me, something like that medically there is free. For me there as well is, even when I'm doing motivational talks in schools there, after I finish my talk and speaking about mental health, I give them a leaflet where there are lines, phone numbers where they could call. And when they raise their voice about what they are going through, that conversation is private and it's respected. You know, unlike here in Kenya where I just find it so difficult, if someone is going through this mental health, what access do they have to try and reach out for help?
Yeah.
Starting from the youth, because now mental health has gone all the way down to the youth. And that's why we are seeing the youth are doing things that we don't expect them to do.
Yeah.
And that is because of PTSD and mental health.
So there's no support structure that's been established. And we've got to start establishing that at community level, at personal level. Now, with you said you give motivational talks in
Right.
the UK, but you also have been able, I'm sure, to talk to several people in Kenya.
Yeah.
How have you been able to help them establish that support structure? Are there some cases, without naming names, where you can
Yes.
say, listening to this person and this, I was able to talk to their friends, and their friends came through for this person?
For me, the people who've reached out to me, I've been quite lucky and fortunate that the people who have reached out to me, majority of them who have been facing this mental health or PTSD, is they just wanted someone neutral to speak to so that they can understand the dynamics of what PTSD is. And some of them, they just need someone to talk to, someone that they can be in contact with and tell them, this is what I'm going through, without them being judged. And when you bottle so many things up inside you and then you start talking about them, you're releasing them slowly by slowly. Where now you find yourself that you're in a better position and a better place now to say, okay, now I know what I'm going through. How can I navigate myself through this when I get a nightmare at night through the traumatic events that I've faced? And when they speak to me and they ask me, how do you deal with your past? I've developed mechanisms where what I've been taught by psychiatrists is what I share with the people who approach me about PTSD and mental health. And I've found that it actually works.
We have very many, every guy belongs to, a group of boys, right? So we all have boys, but like we're saying, those boys are for the good times.
Yeah.
Not for the bad times. Well, for the bad times as well, superficially. So you're going through something, you've lost a loved one, they'll come in, they will support you to go through that, but they will not come in to help you navigate through it psychologically. Now talk to those boys groups. What is it that we need to be looking out for, and how can we get to a point where we are supporting one another beyond getting money out and footing the bills and saying, okay, let's mobilize, this guy needs for us to raise money because he's in hospital, or his wife is in hospital, or his child is in hospital. We are raising money chap. How can we help the person individually?
I think for me, I would put it in very few words. Let's learn and normalize to love each other with respect and a lot of integrity amongst ourselves. And the reason why I'm saying that is, if I have a problem and have this group of boys who just want to help me removing money if I have a problem, or when we go out for drinking, they remove money, we drink, we have drinks, beers, whiskeys and stuff like that. For me, that's not love. For me, love goes beyond that. Love goes beyond those places where we go. Love goes beyond places, situations where I have a problem or I've lost a loved one, you come through for me. For me, love is when you're also going through a tough time in your life, and I'm going through something, and I can see you're going through something, and I come and reach out to you and I tell you, my brother, I've seen you're going through something. please share with me.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Let's normalize those conversations. Let's sit down somewhere and say, we need to make these conversations become more open out here. Let's make these conversations become more meaningful out here. Because you might see someone who has it all. Financially, they have a stable life, they have a job, but at the end of the day, there's something that they're going through. And let's try and break that. You know, let's break it to a sense that we go beyond the things that we are just seeing with our eyes, you know, but also trying to reach out to someone who's struggling within themselves.
It happens to some extent. So someone will call, one friend and say, you know what, because as you understand, I lost my job, so I've been going through this and the other. Can you guys help me foot my bills for this month? And people will mobilize very fast to foot bills for that month, and even call the guy and say, okay, come, next time we're meeting, you don't feel shy, just come. But going beyond that to an individual just reaching out and saying, come, let's talk. What are you feeling? What are you going through? It's, like you said, it's a culture issue.
Yeah.
Now, for us to surmount that culture issue, maybe it may take a number of generations, or maybe it's something that can be done immediately.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted you to speak to people individually and say, as you see a friend going through something, reach out to them and hear them out.
Yes.
Now, as somebody who's going through something, how do you start a conversation with your friends and tell them, I'm going through this?
I think in every situation, you will find a way on how to speak to someone. It's just the same way that if I come here and tell you, let's go for a drink, I've managed to get those guts and that to start that conversation.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that doesn't have a start. Everything has a start. With how you start your conversations, everything can be discussed. So it's not about how can someone start. If you see someone going through a particular situation in their life, and you actually do really care about them, go and reach out to them. It has no script. It doesn't have a manual where you can say this is how you should start speaking to someone. But you going and reaching out, that is love. Love goes beyond. Love can even be used by sign language, So there are so many ways that we can reach out to an individual and go and speak to them. And that's why I normally tell people, majority of the time when we are trying to reach out and speak to people, we try and create a perception about this individual that will start laughing about what this person is going through. We'll start laughing and saying this person is lying, whatever they are going through. We start mocking them. And this is where now, when that individual finds out, the next day or a few weeks, you hear someone committed suicide. And then you start questioning yourself, why did this person do this? That is because of the words that this person was hearing. I shared out my story as a friend, and you went and mocked me outside. So people now are getting afraid of sharing the stories. And you find, this is why I tell people this. Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality. Because the minute you start doing that, you're not living your life, but you're living the life of the people who are mocking you. So for me, everything has a start. As a human being, we all have that humanity inside us. There are some who just deny that they don't have it, because that's the way they choose to live their lives. So it's how you sit down with someone and say, hey, I'm your brother, I'm your sister. Please kindly tell me, what are you going through? And also create an environment where this person feels safe. Create an environment where this person feels love coming from you, inside you. That's when they will be able to talk to you. So we should make those conversations and normalize them as much as we can, and we should not stop talking about them.
David, thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.
So as you heard from David, let's normalize these conversations. So you're watching this and you're in a group of pals, and maybe in this group, maybe in another group, there's somebody whom is going through something. Just reach out to them, okay? Let's just start something. Let's start doing it. Reach out to them. You don't have to go to them with money, just go to them with words. And that is how we're going to change this conversation. Thank you for watching MANCAVE. See you next time.